That's what our guess was, but we liked it very much. So we are going to refill our glasses, and we'll be back right after this. All right, we are back. The scene that we come to makes me crack up. Michael is about to make his speech, and it's very clear that he has made everybody wait until now because he wants the sun to be in a specific spot on the podium right where he's going to stand in all of his white clothes so he can just bask in the awesomeness of the sun in front of all these people while he makes his speech.
Yeah, it's like epic douche level.
Yeah, epic douche level for sure.
I do want to say they describe what he looks like a little bit, and it's really hard for my brain to kind of grab it because they cast somebody totally wrong for him in the show. And not that, again, the show is totally different. We're not comparing it. We won't be doing this all the time.
It's who I picture, though.
In the show?
While I read the books, I picture Michael as the guy in the show. It's not a good fit, but...
Right. But I think it's because of the TV show. I can't see a fat, short, mustachio dude doing all of this.
Right.
I see, like, the tall, handsome guy from the Legend of the Secret TV show. So, I just wanted to throw that out there. I don't see the fat guy. I wish I did, because it would fit his personality better. But ABC decided he was a handsome man.
Yeah. So, he begins his speech, and it's all about how things are going to change, and the things that he's planning to do that are different than the people that came before him.
I got really strong Umbridge vibes from this.
Yeah.
That's a Harry Potter reference. I don't know if you've all read it. I'm assuming you have. Fantasy, whatever. But Umbridge comes in, and it's a little bit different, but it's very much along the lines of, I'm changing shit up. The way you've been doing it is wrong. And I'm about to change things. And it's Hermione during the scene where Umbridge says this is like, dude, that's not good. I know it sounds good, but it's not good. I'm going to end the Harry Potter comparisons, but this whole time that I was listening to the speech, I was like, that's not good. You need to tap the escape button right now. It's not okay.
Well, and then he starts telling the crowd that he's having everybody that was in charge arrested. And that is a very dictator thing to do.
Right.
That should be throwing up big red flags to everybody there.
Right. Cleaning house is not a good thing to do.
No, definitely not.
I mean, I get if everyone's corrupt, you need to do, like, whatever, but we have no indication that things were running wrong in Heartland.
Right. It seemed like a perfectly fine place to live. And Michael's like, nah, we're going to arrest all these people.
Also, he makes a comment about how the boundaries are eventually going to come down. We must be peaceful to the people in Midlands, not wage war. And I just gotta say, why the fuck do you think the boundaries are coming down? It is such a weird thing for him to, like, just assume when they've been up for 30 years and there's nothing that ever said that they were going to come down. And all the people in the crowd are just like, oh, yeah, alright, that makes sense. They weren't meant to last forever. I'm glad that you said that, Michael. Good on you. Why?
My only thought is Terry needed a way to convey that information somehow, and so he just kind of snuck it in during Michael's speech, so it would be given as common knowledge. Until he says this right now in his speech, there's nothing else in the book that would imply that that boundary wasn't a permanent thing.
Right. And I mean, I know later we find out more. For Michael to imply that these boundaries are just going to come down randomly is just, I guess, a little bit weird for me, for everyone to take on faith of this brand new young first counselor. There's like, oh, yeah, okay, you know what you're talking about, when we aren't given any of his... We know that he's a person that talks to other people in power, but he's arresting everybody else. So he must just be a really good talker, because I don't know why else the crowd would be like, oh, yeah, getcha.
And even though it doesn't say anything else about it in the book, at least not yet, everything makes perfect sense to Richard. Because, I mean, Kaylin's here, and she's supposedly from the Midlands, of what he's gathered. And so, yeah, maybe there is a way through the boundary, and these things start becoming possibility. So it makes sense that his brother's talking about it, even though he doesn't know, like Jade, where any of this would be coming from.
It does make him uneasy. As it should.
Oh, definitely. None of this has been considered before. This wasn't even a thing to him before literally today when he ran into this lady. None of this would have made any sense to him, period.
Yeah, had he not run into Kaylin in the woods, he'd probably be like, no. That's something that he grew up with always being there. I guess that's my thing. If you grew up with the boundary always being there, you wouldn't automatically take on faith that it's going to disappear, because people don't like change.
Right.
And that's a big one.
Michael also talks about fire, and he uses their mom as an example to get crowd sympathy. And he brings it up saying fire is dangerous, we need a better way to deal with it. And while that is something that I'm sure a lot of people would have sympathized for Michael over, I feel like he's just using that to get crowd sympathy. Like, that is literally the only reason he's bringing the fire thing up at all. Just so he can get crowd sympathy, hey, feel bad for me, and cast a vote while you're at it.
And he points Richard out in the crowd and makes him feel uncomfortable about it as well. He doesn't just, like, take all that on himself. He's like, look at my brother, who is going to be super weirded out about us all looking at him now. Look at how sad he is about my mom dying.
He's obviously not taking care of himself because he's all dirty from the woods, and he looks like he's tripping balls.
He's got to be covered in some blood.
Yeah, he's going to have some blood. Yeah, he would look pretty rough, I'd say.
Now, I wondered why their mother abandoned them as small children and their father to go back into the fire. Like, what was so important? That's the question that I asked on Facebook.
And boy, did you get an answer.
I did. I got numerous answers, most of them the same. There was a couple people who specifically got into detail, and they all made sure that I had read all the books first, because they didn't want to spoil it for me. But it's been a while since I read all the books, and I completely had forgotten about this little tidbit. If you know, then awesome, because it is something that completely slipped my mind, and we're going to get into it, but it's going to be like 12 books from now.
Yeah, it's going to be a little ways.
So I'm not going to spoil it for you, but there is a reason she abandons her kids, and it's a doozy. I just wanted to throw a thank you out, though, to all those people in the Facebook group, because otherwise I would have been asking this question, and I feel like looking kind of dumb by being like, why the fuck would you leave her kids? Because that's exactly how I felt when I read it. I was like, no, you don't. You got out of the fire with your children. You don't leave them to go back in. Duh.
Now, there's a story about how the fire started. The story about how the fire started is Richard's dad and another guy were playing cards, and he was accusing him of being a cheat, and there was a fight. These two guys were fighting, they knocked over a candle, and the house started on fire. I mean, it was simple as that, but Richard learned a lesson from this. He thinks that anger killed his mom, because that's what caused the fight. Michael doesn't believe the same thing. Michael is, afraid of the fire. I guess you can just draw a comparison there.
And Michael's an asshole, so he would be more inclined to being angry as opposed to trying to curb his anger like Richard has.
Right.
Michael tells the crowd that they need to find a better way to handle fire because of what happened with his mom. And he notices that Richard isn't super happy about his mom being brought up in this fashion. So he says that he has to go comfort him. But when he gets to Richard, he doesn't exactly comfort him.
Right, he has a complete turnaround in his attitude. He's like, great speech, what'd you think? He's become his own hype man.
Right, all about him instead of about Richard. So he definitely was trying to get sympathy from the crowd and be like, I'm gonna go help. I gotta go hug my brother and give him some love. But then when he gets over to his brother, he gives himself the love.
Right, he wasn't feeling anything of what he was talking about during his speech. It was just about how everybody would feel about him. I mean, typical, but still a letdown.
Arrogant dick.
Richard is a good dude. You'd like to think that his brother would also be cut from the same cloth, so to speak, but they're obviously not. And it's polarized these two pretty harshly right from the beginning of this chapter.
Right. Once he gets there, Richard kind of brushes off the fact that he didn't give him any comfort and he just praised himself, and he asks Michael about their dad, if he's found anything out about his murder. Michael says George was a thief and a fool, and Richard needs to get over it, and they're never going to learn who did it. And Richard is appalled by this answer, as I think most of the readers are.
As they should be.
Right, because that's your dad. You shouldn't not care who the fuck murdered him.
That should be a big deal to you, dude.
Yeah.
Like, big red flag. You should be way more upset about this.
Yeah. He makes a comment about how it doesn't matter if somebody's dead, their stuff is still not yours to take. And I don't know what the hell he's talking about, but I feel like he's painting George in a really negative light, and Richard so far has painted him in a really positive light, so we don't really know what George is made of yet.
Right, but that also shows that Michael does have some inside information that he's just not telling Richard.
Right, he's obviously talking about something.
Yeah, he's
specific.
He's got an idea of why he might have been killed. Maybe he took something off a dead dude. Well, maybe it wasn't his to take. How the fuck do you know that?
Yeah.
Speak!
Share your info, bud!
Yeah, would sure like to know where you got that little nugget of wisdom from.
And then Michael makes a comment about how Richard looks pretty rough.
Yeah.
Kaylin takes the blame immediately, and that brings her to Michael's attention.
I'm sure that's right where she wants to be.
Yeah, he immediately, I knows her.
Yeah, I knows her. That's brilliant.
They are introduced, and Michael is immediately like, all right, well, you're going to stay with me tonight, chick. Then grabs her and her butt and inserts his leg between her legs and tells her she needs to change her arrangements.
It was funny. I mean, it's not funny to me, but the first thought he has about Kaylin is, way too hot for my brother. Oh, she must be an escort, even if she's not with my brother.
Yeah.
He assumed a lot.
Yeah.
In a very short time span, and then made a complete ass of himself very quickly thereafter. With just nuclear-level douchebag. That's all I guess I wanted to say.
And the attention of the entire room I get people are probably milling around right now, right? But this is the guy that they all came here to see. So I would assume that most people are at least peripherally paying attention to what's going on.
Oh yeah, the party's all about Michael. There's got to be people watching him.
And he has no qualms about grabbing some random lady and being like, you're coming with me tonight.
It's just a little mild sexual assault, JD.
Right. Just a little bit. No big deal.
No, he should totally go to jail. Like, this is just so bad.
But Kaylin isn't exactly a wounded dove, okay?
Oh, no.
She tells him he needs to remove her hands, and he responds by saying, "Oh, you feel good."
Wrong answer.
Wrong fucking answer. She then responds by ripping his chest skin with her fingernail. And I think at first he didn't move because he was a little shocked that she would even have the balls to do that to him. Because I don't think he's ever been told no before. But he eventually does let go, and Caitlin storms out with Richard right behind her. What's funny is the whole time Richard's like, do I need to step in?
He's just watching this go down like, oh my fuck.
I will if I have to, but you obviously, neither one of you needs me, so okay, I'll just watch. But he's definitely got Kaylin's back more than his brother's, and he's known her for all of a couple hours.
And I mean, what a wild introduction into Richard's people.
Right.
Really, these are the people she's supposed to be safe with. I wouldn't feel safe with a Michael guy around.
Right, that's his brother, and I mean, even if you think you know Richard by now, his brother, the person he's grown up with, is a real piece of shit. And